Okay, guys, we're going to continue today talking about how to factor. And if you'll remember, the last few days we've talked about greatest common factor and taking that out. Okay, now for today, we're going to talk about factor by grouping. Now, if we factor by grouping, what we're going to look at is that we use this for terms that have at least four terms. Okay, so your factor by grouping steps, you're going to use so if you're grouping, remember that you got to have at least four terms. And you'll see down here if we count one, two, three, four. There's four terms down here. Okay. Now, I printed this paper and then I realized I wanted for you guys to do this a different way. So just take a big X right here and you're going to write out here box method. And I'm going to introduce to you the box method today. Now, we have used the box in class to multiply, like I did in a previous video when I multiplied up here, like x plus 3 times x plus 3, and I got this answer, the x squared plus 6x plus 9. So what we're going to do is instead of starting with the outside and getting the inside, we're going to start with the inside and come up with the outside, okay? So let me show you how this is going to work. So if we look down here at this first example, right here, we're going to take all of these and we're going to put them inside a box, okay? So we're going to draw our 2 by 2 box. And then inside this box, you're going to put x cubed, negative 3x squared, negative 9x, and plus 27. It does not matter which order you put those in the box. It's going to work out the same, okay? It doesn't matter. All right. Now, what you ask yourself, remember, we've been doing greatest common factor. So you ask yourself, what is the greatest common factor across the top of this box? Well, the greatest common factor across the top here is x squared. So we write that on the outside, x squared. And then you ask yourself, what do I multiply by x squared to get x cubed? Well, that's x, so you put an x right up here. Then you say, what do I multiply by x squared to get negative 3x squared? Well, that is negative 3. Then what do I multiply by x? Notice I've switched to this one up here because I'm trying to get this negative 9x this time. So what do I multiply by x to get negative 9x? Well, that is negative 9. And then check, is negative 9 times negative 3 equal to a positive 27? And it is. So that means I've done everything else correctly. So right now we have x squared minus 9 times x minus 3. And where I get that from is right here. X squared minus 9, x minus 3. What you came up with there is what you put inside your parentheses. Now this particular problem is a special case. You should recognize this x squared minus 9 from right up here. X squared minus 9, how does that factor? We did that. X plus 3 times x minus 3. So we're going to come down here and we're going to rewrite this x squared minus 9 as x plus 3, x minus 3, but we also have that other x minus 3. Now, if you were on some form of a standardized test or something, the way that they would write this is x plus 3 times x minus 3, and then they would square it. And the reason they would do that is because you have x minus 3 that appears twice. So since it appears twice, they're going to write it down once and put that exponent of 2 up there. Okay? Okay, let's look at number 2. Okay, for number 2, we're going to draw our box. And inside that box, we're going to put all four terms. 2ab, negative 6ac, 3b, and negative 9c. And I'm just going to kind of draw a line here so that you guys can tell I'm working on a different problem. Okay. Now, the first thing you ask yourself is, what is the greatest common factor across the top here? The greatest common factor across the top is going to be a 2, because 2 and negative 6 have a 2 in common. And then there's also an a in both of these. So 2a is my greatest common factor. Then you start your multiplying, asking yourself, what do I multiply by 2a to get 2ab? Well, that is b. What do I multiply by 2a to get negative 6ac? And that is negative 3c. Then you're going to switch to the b because you're trying to get this 3b down here. B times what is 3b? Well, that's 3. And then check. Is 3 times negative 3c equal to negative 9c? And it is. So that means my two answers come from here. 2a plus 3 and b minus 3c. And this is how you write it. 2a plus 3 times b minus 3c. So I take what I came up with on the outside and I put them in parentheses side by side. Don't write them up and down on top of each other because that doesn't indicate multiplication. What I mean is don't do this. Don't do 2a plus 3 and b minus 3c. That does not mean the same thing as this. So if you need to, write that and put a big X over that. Don't write it like that, okay? You got to write it side by side to indicate that those two things are being multiplied by each other, okay? Okay, let's look at number 3. Okay, we're going to draw our box. And inside the box, we put all 4 terms. 4y cubed minus 12y squared minus 5y plus 15. Okay, then you ask yourself across the top, what is the greatest common factor? Well, the greatest common factor is 4y squared. 4 is the greatest common factor of 4 and 12, and then your smallest exponent on a y is y squared. Okay, now we say, what do I multiply by 4y squared to get 4y cubed? Well, that's y. What do we multiply by 4y squared to get negative 12y squared? And that is negative 3. What do we multiply by y to get negative 5y? Negative 5. And negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15. So we did that correctly. Now remember, what's on the outside, this right here, goes inside parentheses as your answer. So our answer is 4y squared minus 5 times y minus 3. This right here. Okay? All right, I want you to try 4 and 5, and then we'll check those and see how you did.